What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Court Kingz. Today, we're bringing you guys a review of the first two episodes of the ESPN documentary, The Last Dance, based on not just Michael Jordan, but also the entire 97-98 Bulls, the entire drama that ensued, and kind of gave a little background information on what was actually going on during those title runs, even their previous three-peat. But before we get into that, let me introduce you guys to my two co-hosts tonight. First, I'm joined by Mr. SportsMark himself, Joe Anderson. What's going on? How you doing, man?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
Not too much, man. Always a pleasure to be joined by El Capitan.
I'm just trying to help everybody. So I'm a giver. What can I say?
No, I appreciate that, man. And for this Chicago-based documentary, we had to bring in a homer. We had to bring in a Chicago native. I'm joined by Amer. Amer, what's going on, man?
What's going on? I like the introduction.
Yeah.
Homegrown.
that homegrown talent, man. You know
Homegrown,
what I'm saying? You're from the area. Obviously, this is a big part of not just sports history, but probably history of Chicago in general. Obviously watching this probably brought back whatever nostalgic memories you had from your childhood. If not, I'm sure relatives, people around you talked to you about your entire life growing up.
Yeah, it was crazy. My when we watched it, because we actually watched the first episode with my dad, and obviously my dad's seen pretty much the entire 90s Bulls go through everything, and even proceeding up to that in the 80s and 70s and so on. And it was crazy because he was basically like, while everything was going on, he already knew that all this happened. And for like me and my siblings, because I'm only 24, so seeing everything pretty much for the first time unravel like that, besides like hearing about everything, seeing it is a completely different feeling. Whether it's good or bad, it's kind of mixed emotions. But yeah, it was just crazy to see how the entire thing played out, and we've only been through 2 episodes. That's a crazy thing.
Exactly. The one thing that immediately stood out to me is that even through growing up and hearing the legacy of Michael Jordan and the Bulls, that team, the 2 3-peats they had been on, you would have never known that there was so much dysfunction going on around them. I had no knowledge of how much dysfunction was going on around them with the GM and with him potentially grooming another coach on the side. And all of this is going on, and you're making a basketball player like Michael Jordan have to choose who he wants to play basketball for, putting him in these uncomfortable situations. It blew my mind to watch all of these things unravel.
Yeah, I think the most influential thing about it was the fact that, like I said, I wasn't able to watch those things live. So me seeing all that happen, and the fact that Jerry Krause, the GM at the time, didn't even invite Phil Jackson to his own wedding. He invited everybody besides Phil Jackson, which is your head coach for your team, who previously won 5 championships before this. So it wasn't like it was a new coach. They didn't know each other. They've been together since, I want to say, 1990. So it was 7 or 8 years in the making of all this like drama going on, and it was crazy to see.
Yeah, it wasn't even. I mean, from the documentary, I actually learned apparently Krause brought in Phil Jackson as an assistant coach the Bulls, and to groom him to kind of go through the ranks of coaching to eventually become. And then to see what their relationship ended up developing into is just, it's mind-boggling. And like I said, like, imagine today in modern day NBA making LeBron James say, look, you have this coach. Obviously, he's never really had this situation, but you have this coach that you've won 5 championship rings from. We want to not only stray away from him, but stray away from our culture, go through a rebuilding process, and we want you to pick another coach to play for. It's like LeBron would be like, that would never happen. LeBron would just say who he wants to play for. That would be it. It would be end of discussion. The fact they were putting Michael Jordan throughout that entire theatrical process, it blew my mind. It was crazy.
Yeah. Watching that stuff, like Amer, I'm a little bit older than Amer. Me and Abboud, we were at the same age, like 28. So we watched a lot of not a lot, but we watched a good amount of the Bulls games and everything. I know we were like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, when it was going on. But again, like you said, it was just like it's crazy that to see how successful they were and how much they were winning and everything, but then you never know about like all the inner turmoil that's happening on the team. Like it's just crazy to see. And here, I mean, obviously, no players or no teams always is ever perfect. There's never like somebody who's happy playing like their 8 minutes a game. There's always that person that there's always something. But like just from the first 2 episodes, it was just like crazy to see. Like it was crazy just to hear these things for like the first time. Like my whole thing was Krause. And I'm not trying to get off like topic or run on like a whole tangent or whatever, but like my whole thing with Krause is like, if you have a team like that with 3 Hall of Famers on it, like you're not even thinking about breaking it up. Like there's
exactly.
Like there's no like this is it, and then we're gonna blow the team up, and we're gonna like you don't even get to decide that. Like at this point, like almost, like you just let it go to the wheels fall off. Like when Jordan, Pippen, and Robin are like, I'm done. Then when they decide it's over, then it's over. Like I get it. Like I get like it's organization, you're doing your job and stuff, but like, and you put a lot of pieces around. You brought Kukoc and Longley and Armstrong and Kerr and all them. Like you brought a whole bunch of pieces in. But at the end of the day, like, get out the way. Like, because if he didn't break that team up, who knows if they would have won more championships. Like, it mind boggles me. And the thing is, a lot of people are saying, like, he was a great GM. He brought all these pieces, but he will always be remembered for blowing that team up for no reason.
And that's the thing that sucks for him is because he's the one who, when he originally came in, I want to say it was in 87, I believe, because Pippen was drafted, I believe, in 88 or 89, or 88, I believe. And so the crazy thing is for him to draft Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, which were two, obviously we know about Scottie Pippen, he's a Hall of Famer, but Horace Grant, I don't know if you guys know about him or not, but he's one of the main parts for the main like sources for the Bulls to win their first three-peat. And so he was the reason why James Worthy had so much issues in the early 90s in the 90s-91 finals. And then to go on in the following year to play against the Trailblazers, who had Clyde Drexler, who was, again, a future Hall of Famer, if not one of the top players to ever play. And so for him to do that and then to go on and to get Steve Kerr and to get, like you said, Luke Longley. And the craziest thing is they traded Horace Grant, Charles Oakley, who was, again, drafted by the Bulls in the earlier stages, who was, like, basically Michael Jordan's big brother on the court. And for him to trade, and everyone was, like, aroused, like, crazed about it. The fact that he traded Charles Oakley for Bill Wennington. And at that time, Bill Cartwright. He brought Bill Cartwright in specifically to stop all the taller centers in the league. And so he did all these amazing things and brought in all these draft picks and all these players and these 6 championships, and all he's ever going to be remembered for was breaking up that team. And it sucks for him, honestly.
Honestly,
I think you were right. I think it was Bill Wennington based on what happened last night. It was Wennington. It wasn't Cartwright. I believe you're right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Cartwright, if I'm not mistaken.
While you look that up, I was going to say it's because during the documentary they told you that when the Bulls were looking for a new GM, they asked around the league about Krause, and people were basically like, don't have anything to do with him. Like he isolates people. He's not really a people person. And they still said, we're not here to have somebody who's going to be your best friend. We want somebody who's going to get the players that he wants and develop the type of team that he wants to develop. And like you guys said, to like his credit, he did get an incredible load of talent through his years with the Chicago Bulls that obviously produced championships. But even his own ego of not getting the credit. He put out a statement saying players don't win championships, organizations win championships. And then he tried to
crack it, yeah.
Exactly. So it's like If this is how you really feel, no wonder why you literally have the greatest of any generation, like athlete of any generation on your team, and you severed ties with them because instead of giving credit to, come on, dude, yeah, obviously you assembled this team, but it's like you have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. Eventually you had players like Ron Harper, Steve Kerr. Like you have, they're putting in the sweat equity to get you these championships. So it's okay if you fall back and don't necessarily get the credit right now. When people looked back, had he kept that relationship clean, when people looked back, they would have been calling him a genius for what he did in his time with the Bulls.
Exactly. By the way, the Charles Oakley trade was Bill Cartwright.
Bill Cartwright.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they actually did a straight swap. So Bill Cartwright was with the Knicks, who, by the way, the Knicks were giant enemies with the Bulls at the time. But they just did a straight up trade for Bill Cartwright for Charles Oakley. And then, again, like I said, like Abboud said, like, had he not broken it up later on, it would have been like, holy crap, this is the best GM of all sports. For him to do that. And again, like both you guys said, who knows how many championships they would have won together.
Yeah, for real. Like, when you consider, like, Jordan left the game and came back with the Wizards and was damn near picked up where he left off, averaging like 20-something a game, making all-star teams. Like, dude was balling at like 40 years old. You don't sit here and try to get him to leave at 34 when they broke up in 98? Like,
yeah, 34.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, again, you let that rock until you literally, like, see these guys, like, crawling on the court. Then it's like, okay, now it's time to, like, do something about it. But, like, you don't sit here and blow this up. Like, bro, like, all three of these dudes are still balling. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why, again, like Abboud said, like, and I think you said it too, Amer, like, this is ego, bro. He just couldn't get out of his own way. Like, but it's not, like, the GM, I've never really seen a GM go off trying to, like, get the credit for, like, stuff like this. Like, never to sit here and be like, oh, this was on me. Like, I've never seen a GM do something, like, crazy like that to the point of trading three or getting rid of in some type of way or wanting to blow up 3 Hall of Famers on the same team. Like, I've never seen a GM try to pull something like that because he doesn't get the credit he deserves for building the team. When everybody could look back and be like, yo, this dude put together amazing teams. Like, you have 3 Hall of Famers and you put all the right pieces around them. Whether John Paxson was there or Steve Kerr was there, like you said, Cartwright was there, Whittington was there, Only, Kukoc, B.J. Armstrong, even freaking Ronnie Brown, like Scott Burrell, like the list goes on and on. But like he brought all this talent in, but you're never gonna be known for that now. You're known for the person that ruined it, like probably one of the greatest dynasties or whatever in sports history. Like it sucks.
And then the other thing is, like how Abboud said, is like if the NBA tried, whoever the GM for LeBron at this time tried to do that to LeBron, in all honesty, LeBron would get his way, which is, I mean, he's at that right now, he's the best player in the NBA. So it's the same thing with Jordan. And then, like, I know with the Lakers that happened with them too, where they wanted to fire Phil Jackson. And Kobe literally said, listen, if you fire him, I'm gone. And so what did they do? They said, you know what, let's keep our best player. Even though we don't like the coach, even though we have arguments with the coach, we don't like his coaching style, whatever the case may be, we're going to stick with our main guy and who he wants, and we'll continue on with our legacy and our championship runs and all this stuff. But I feel like you guys both said, Krause's ego is just way too big for such a little man, which I found that hilarious when they brought that up. But again, his ego is just way too big for him. And again, he wanted all the credit for pretty much, I'm not going to say he didn't do anything, because, again, that he assembled great teams, but just it sucks for him. I just feel bad for him, to be honest. I'm not even mad at him. It sucks for him.
LeBron would get rid of the GM. Like, that's the thing. LeBron would go to the owner, and the GM would be out of a job. So the fact that even that just goes to show you, like, I know this is a whole different conversation, but just the power of the player from back then compared to right now. Because right now, I feel like, especially with, like, you know, the NBA Players Union and all that stuff, they would never allow these type of because the thing is, moving on to relating it to this treatment of Scottie Pippen, his payment for, I think he signed 8 years, something.
7-year, $18 million contract.
And you think about, I mean, they showed the statistics, top 2 and everything on the Bulls. He ranked top 5 in several statistics across league wide, and I think that he was getting paid in like he was the 70-something ranked
in the
forward
league
at the time.
122nd ranked player.
Listen, it's like and they wouldn't. There was no room for negotiation when he tried to come towards the end of his contract. He ended up having to do that surgery or whatever in spite of the owner to miss the first 2 months of the season. I mean, it's just you would have never looked. I mean, maybe in Chicago these things were being reported, but you would have never thought that at the time that this was occurring in what was the greatest sports dynasty at the time.
I feel like, again, I don't know. I was born in 95, so for me to sit here and say, oh, yeah, I watched Jordan and them play live, it'd be a lie because obviously they broke up after the 98 season. And so for me to see that happen, again, I've read about it. I've done reports about it, but, like, I've never physically seen the damage that was done. And so for all that to just kind of blow up, for it to just happen the way it happened, it was like the whole legacy. Yes, the Bulls won 6 championships. Yes, they went on a crazy run where they won 6 out of 8 years, or 8 years, I believe. And so it's like for it to all blow up like that and to just vanish, it's like everyone knows they won the 6 championships and everyone knows they were so dominant. But then if you really think about like the whole backstory to it, it's like now that we're seeing it, it's like, what the hell was going on the whole time? Like, for them to be able, whether they were covering it up or not, to where the NBA didn't know about it, I don't know, to be completely honest. But for it to happen like that, it's like, how does it all lead up to it? And hopefully we'll find out as we continue watching for it to lead up to that. Because so far, I know all we've heard was that they didn't get along, and I know with Scottie Pippen, like we all said, it was a 7-year contract for $18 million. And at that time, obviously $18 million even now is a huge amount of money. So it's not like something that's like for us to think, oh, $18 million over 7 years, I'm taking it and running with it. But obviously for NBA players who are playing almost every night, I know his excuse for signing that contract was he said that he was so worried he couldn't bet on himself to stay healthy and be able to take care of his family. And the first thing that came to my head when I heard that, I was like, okay, I understand you signed that contract because you were scared, but how do you sign a contract like that? How do you not bet on yourself? Every player, doesn't matter what sport it is, always bet on themselves. That's how so many stories get made, to where kids in college are not even 1-star recruits, then go to a bullshit college, do so good there, transfer to a 4-year school, and then end up doing so good there that they get it into the sport that they're doing. So it's like, how do you not bet on yourself? That's the thing that killed me. I'm like, all these other people that you've seen, Jordan bet on himself, and look what he did. How do you not bet on yourself? And for you, and even like Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, came out, like physically told him, don't sign this contract. And he was like, no, I can't. I have to sign it. It's like, what kind of mistake are you making, man?
Man, it's just, especially when you look at how rapidly the game was growing and how much it was eventually becoming to be worth. It was just, like you said, I guess poor preparation on his part. To maybe he didn't know how to establish his worth. Maybe he didn't know how to quantify what he brought to the league. And like you said, I know he had things outside of basketball, maybe family related. They showed some stuff with his mom that maybe also played an effect too. But like nowadays, a 7-year contract for $18 million, that's laughable. That's so disrespectful. A player will just walk out of your office. And the fact that arguably one of the greatest forwards in the history of the game was stuck to that contract, still committed to it though, because obviously produced 6 championships out of it, is just it's a testament to his game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's to me, it's just spit in the face, like you guys are saying. But I mean, again, like, yeah, you don't. I'm mad at, again, like Amer said, like, just as far as him not betting on himself, like how you not betting on himself, but at the same time, I could see why he did it and why it's the same reason a lot of these guys that go to college, they jump at the first contract they get, A lot of them see the $1 million and they're like, yo, I don't got money. I got to feed my family. I got to get out of here. So a lot of them do that. And I guess at the time you sit here and you figure 70 years, $18 million is like two and change probably a season. So you're like, yo, I got millions. I can feed my family. We won't gonna be poor no more, So I mean, I could see both sides of it. I could see why it's like, don't jump at that contract. But then again, it's like, if you're coming from nothing, like you see that you see millions in front of you. You gotta take it. Like, so I could see both sides of it. But again, like after the first 3-4 years of this guy's contract, where you see, okay, this guy is one of the best forwards in the NBA, you would think the GM would be like, all right, let's renew this, or like you deserve this. Like you are an instrumental reason as to why we won, these first 3 championships. So maybe here's extra 15, 20 on top, something like give him something extra. Like I don't know if you guys saw a picture, but I saw a picture before and it was like Jordan was making $33 million.
I was just to bring that up too, but continue.
You see that?
Yeah.
Jordan was making $33 million, and the next guy was making like 5 or 7, something like that.
Yeah, so Jordan was making $33 million, and then the next guy, if I'm not mistaken, was Dennis Rodman. He was making, I think, $7 million, and that, which again, he deserved it. One of the best forwards in the
he deserves it. Yeah.
And then the third guy making by the way, Scottie Pippen was the
last. He was last.
Yeah, he was the 5th player making the most salary on the Bulls team in that year or whatever it was. Steve Kerr, I just looked it up too, was averaging in just that season, in the 97-98 season, was averaging, it said 7 minutes a game. He was averaging 4 points and like 3 assists or something like that, right? He was making $5 million a year. On a 5-year deal, he made $5 million a year. So he made a total of $25 million. So in that, and he was signed, I believe, a year. I think it was a year before Pippen signed that contract, or 2 years before he signed that contract. No, it was a year before he signed that contract. But still, for you to sit there and sign Scottie Pippen to a 7-year contract worth $18 million, which is $2.5 million over each year. And then the following year, after they won the first championship, the following year, you sign Steve Kerr from the Cleveland Cavaliers, who was doing nothing there. They signed him as a very basic role player. You signed him to a 5-year deal worth $25 million. How do you give that guy that contract? Again, don't take anything away from Steve Kerr. He was a great role player for the Bulls at the time. He did everything he needed to do. He was one of the best three-point shooters in the league. At that time, nobody was shooting threes anyway. But how do you give Steve Kerr that deal and then let's say after the second championship, not come to Scottie Pippen and say, hey, listen, you've been a very, like you said, Joe, you've been a very instrumental role in our championships. Let's renew this contract. But I'll be honest, as a Bulls fan and being here my entire life, I know the Bulls organization, and same thing with the Sox, because Jerry Reinsdorf owns the Bulls and the Sox.
Yeah.
His contracts, man, like, I'm not gonna say he's a cheap ass because obviously he's not. He's the owner of 2 major sports teams in both 2 major sports. So it's not like oh, he just started out. No, he's been doing this since the 80s, where he's owned both teams. And so I wasn't surprised that he never came to him and renewed the contract. In all honesty, I'm not surprised. The thing that surprised me and the thing I thought of right away was when they signed Derrick Rose to that deal. It was like a 5-year, $95 million, or I believe. They signed him to that deal based off his merits from before, and they signed him prior to his. I think correct me if I'm wrong. One of you guys know, is the NBA still do where when you get drafted, is it still a 4-year contract or is it 2-year?
It's like a 4-year, but it's 2 years with a 2-year option.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know 2 years. I think in Derrick Rose's 3rd year, which that was the year he won MVP, literally the next year. So he won Rookie of the Year. He came back. He made his All-Star the 2nd year. 3rd year, he won MVP and made an All-Star game. And then the following year, they signed him to that deal. So thinking of that, and I'm like, okay, if Derrick Rose, who obviously did not live up to anything, which sucks to say, but he didn't live up to anything that we hoped of. But Scottie Pippen to come out of college, who went to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a Division II college, to come out of college as a first rounder, I believe a first rounder, for him to come out of college and then he has his rookie deal, and then all of a sudden not to give him that honestly bullshit ass deal. Like, you offered him 7 years, which is a great lengthy contract for a player, especially if they're worried about like getting injured, but to only offer him 18 million is mind blowing.
Disrespectful.
It's like a slap in the face to him. And it's like, do better. And then the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf said, oh, don't sign this contract. Well, if you're telling him don't sign this contract, why would you not offer him more money? And I understand the GM takes more part into that, but maybe Scottie Pippen, like, again, like both you guys said, he's just naive. He was scared, so he just did it. But maybe if Jerry Reinsdorf was a little bit more like persuasive on him, maybe he would have listened. Maybe that would have never happened.
The thing is that it seems like since the beginning of Krause's run with the Bulls, there were moments of attempting to sabotage their success. Michael Jordan got injured, and he was dealing with that injury, and they were discussing whether or not he could come back and what the term of him being out could be, and you know, his possibilities of being re-injured. So they ended up putting him on a minute restriction, and so they would put him in for like 7 minutes. I think it got to a point where it was like 14 minutes. And Krause literally told the coach at the time, he said, you play him more than 14 minutes and I'm firing you on the spot. You are losing your job. And so for 14 minutes, Michael Jordan went crazy. He went like, you know, scored as many points as he could, built up as big of a lead as he could. I think it came down to the fourth quarter. There was like 52 seconds left, 51 seconds left, something like that. And they're down by 1 or something. And he pulled him out of the game. And Jordan's begging the coach. He's telling him, you know, put me back in the game. Let me go. You know, it's 50. You can play me 20 seconds. It doesn't matter. He said, Mike, you know, he told me on the spot. It's my job, whatever. John Paxson ends up hitting the game-winning shot, and that made them to the playoffs. But there were speculation that he was trying to force that loss to kind of better positioning for the NBA draft as far as picks and stuff. And you have a player like Michael Jordan on your team. How can that be your strategy? I just don't understand what type of GM thinks that sort of way when you have an absolute killer on your team.
I just want to say that was one of my favorite points, one of my favorite parts in like the whole documentary so far, just because like what's the guy's what's his name? What was his coach's name? Was it Brett Sam? Oh man.
You're talking about the coach in the 80s?
Yeah, I forget what
Stan something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but our man was like everybody he was talking to said the whole thing you said, like he talked to Krause, he talked to the owners and everything, and he was saying he was like, Mike, you know, they told me I can't play you past 7 minutes because, you know, blah, blah, whatever. And my man, Mike, literally looked at him. He said, Coach, listen, fuck those guys. Just play me. And that was one of the greatest things. Like, when you could just look at your coach and just be like, yo, fuck the GM, fuck the owner. Like, just play me, bro. Like, I got you. Just play me. Like, because if he would have sat here and if Jordan would have sat here and played those games past 7 minutes and stayed healthy, he probably would have led to a better seed in the playoffs. They might have not ended up playing the Celtics, I believe they played that year. They might not end up getting swept or whatever it was, 4-1, whatever. He might have went a little further in the playoffs. And they would have said, okay, well, there's no way they would have made the playoffs, and their coach would have fired their coach in the playoffs. It wouldn't have happened. Like, because if they did, they would have been looked at against the laughing stock or a joke. They wouldn't have done that. Like, so if I'm that coach, honestly, like I'm putting it on Jordan. I'm like, yo, fuck it. It's the last game of the season. It's 50 seconds left in our season. I'm putting you in. I would have just played him. Like, to me, it's baffling. Like, just you invest all this time. I get that he was hurt. I get he was coming off of injury and everything, but like, you see what this kid can do in 7 minutes. Like, you're talking about my man was playing 7 minutes a quarter and dropping like 10 points a quarter. Like
that's you're being nice. It was 7 minutes a half.
There you go, 7 minutes a half. And my man was dropping like 15, 20 points. Like, yo, let him play. Like, it's stupid. Like,
the crazy thing is Stan Albeck. That was the coach's name, right?
there you go.
So, like we saw in the documentary, like we both said, Jerry Cross literally went to Stan Albeck and told him, yo, if you play him more than 14 minutes, you're gone, right? And that was – the Bulls made the playoffs after that game, right? So that was 82 games. And then in the playoffs, they obviously got swapped. They only played 4 games. Dude, he was still fired. I'm looking at the head coach list right now, and he literally only coached – so they don't count playoff games. They only count regular season. He only coached 82 games. And then the following year, they hired Doug Collins, which coached from 86 to 89. And then Phil Jackson came in from 89 all the way to 98. So either way, he was so scared to play him, to lose his job over 20 seconds. I believe it was 20 seconds left in the game. He was so scared he didn't play him, and he got bailed out by John Paxson. Imagine if he didn't get bailed out. I mean, either way, whether he got bailed out or not, he still got fired at the end of the year. So it didn't matter.
Exactly.
Obviously, they couldn't predict the future, but that sucks for him. It's like, all right, you literally gave me an ultimatum, and then either way, I followed what you wanted, and you still managed to do that to me. Like,
it just at this point, just take the chance. Take the chance, man. Like, just do it. Like, at that point, like, yo, your team without Jordan isn't good. And they alluded to that before. They were like, yo, in the 80s and everything before, the Bulls weren't that good. So you have this kid who's like single-handedly goddamn near leading you to the playoffs. Like, he's killing right now. Just put him in. Like, just do it. Like, again, like, you were on. I mean, I'm pretty sure he kind of. If you're a coach, you kind of know. You're like, I'm on the outs. Like,
yeah,
you kind of know. But I mean, for him to have the team that he had, and still make the playoffs with Jordan on minutes restriction, like, I don't know. Like, it's crazy. Again, it's crazy. It would seem like if you're the GM of this team, and I'm not saying, well, not in the 80s and everything, so not that early so much, but like later on and everything, like when you get into Scotty coming and Dennis and all them, like, this job would seem like it's goddamn one of the easiest GM jobs like you could ever hope to get after a while. Like, yeah, you have egos to manage, but like, everybody understands their role. You pay Scottie Pippen what he fucking deserves. You have Jordan. You have Rodman. Robin's crazy, but at the end of the day, Robin has your back. Like,
yeah,
on the court, he's doing whatever. Like, it would seem like it'd be one of the easier GM positions to have. Like, you don't blow this shit up until they're done. Like, when Jordan, Pippen, and Robin walk into my office, like, yo, we're all like 37. We're ready to retire. Like, it's like, all right, cool. I have some pieces in the first and second rounds I have been getting in the draft. They've been maturing, sitting under you guys, playing for the, they've been working with you guys. Now you guys are ready to retire. Cool. Then I can blow it up and rebuild. Like, it would seem like it'd be the easiest thing. You have 3 Hall of Famers starting in your starting 5. Like,
it would have been like the Spurs situation, honestly, how they let Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili, even though Tony went on to play for Charlotte for a little bit. It's like you let them play until, the very end of their career. You don't just throw away whatever years they have left in their prime.
Yeah. And then the Spurs, did they even make the playoffs the last couple years that Tim and all them were still there? Were they still contending for the playoffs? I'm not 100% sure. That's why I'm asking.
They were, but I mean, they weren't serious contenders there later.
They were always,
they might have been. They might have been first round exits.
Yeah, but still, you let them, even though you kind of knew, okay, this is the end for them, but let's let them run it out. They still made the playoffs together, and then at the end, you're like, okay, you guys are all done. All right, now it's time to start over.
Here's the thing: certain athletes get a particular treatment. Kobe, R.I.P. Kobe, in the later years of his career, obviously he wasn't the player that he used to be, but he brought you so much glory throughout his time there that it's like, dude, I'll let you fucking you can go out there in crutches and throw one up left-handed. I'll let you do that. It's like, you built what we have now. Whatever culture we have right now, you built that. So I'm never gonna kick you out. That's just not. But like you guys said, it's crazy, and it's just crazy again when I think about how much control players have these days in sports, at least in the NBA, because the NBA is the most player-involved sport out there.
Yep.
And to see this type of treatment is like unheard of. It's baffling.
And then the thing is like both you guys said, Rodman, Pippen, and Jordan walked into his office and said, "Hey, listen, we have 3 more years left in us. Let's restructure these deals. Let's try to work it out." Obviously, Jordan shouldn't. I mean, it's not that he. I'm saying I think he should have, but at that time, obviously, money was everything. It's not like the NBA now where players are getting $100 million contracts. But Jordan, if all 3 walked in your office, me personally, if I was the GM, I would have said, "Listen, you 3 are safe. I'm gonna sign you guys to. You guys say you have 3 more years. I'm gonna sign you guys to 3 more years. I'm gonna give you guys the money you guys want. But then all the pieces I'm bringing in, they're not gonna be like a Tony Kukoc, where was basically the stretch 4 at that time. And I'm gonna bring in players that are decent. They're not gonna be like very good role players, but I'm still gonna keep you guys." And the fact that he didn't even think of doing that, or the fact that he didn't even want to do that, was like, all right, how do you not? It's just like you guys both said it's crazy to think that, like, how do you not keep these Hall of Famers on your team? How do you not give them another chance to go back out there, even if they are older? And by the way, the oldest one out of them was Jordan, and he was 34. So it wasn't like they were. I mean, look at it now. LeBron's 35, and he's still playing. You know,
and he controls his own destiny too.
Yeah, and so like,
Right.
how do you not give them another chance? How do you not, like, they've proven themselves. They don't have to. They could literally walk into your office and say "fuck you," and like nothing will happen to them, or it shouldn't happen to them. But in that case, with the whole Pippen thing, obviously we saw Pippen did that, and it still didn't mean shit to them. Like he tried to control it. He tried to tell him, "Listen, it's either sign me to a new deal or I'm gone." They were like, "All right, ride the wave. You're not gonna get," like, they were basically telling him, like, "Screw off. We don't even care."
That when they were accepting the championships and he grabbed the microphone and he said, "If I never get the chance again, I just want to thank all the fans of Chicago for the years and everything." That's like, because that's just so crazy to think. Because like, if you're a fan there and you hear that in passing, it's like, you know, this guy is just super appreciative. He's really in the moment of what's going on right now. You don't think like this player is like, "I'm probably never going to play here again," or "I don't want to play here again," or, you know, like, and that must be, you don't win 6 rings somewhere and then just like not have an attachment to that place.
Yeah.
So also you got to think about it from the player's perspective of like, fuck man, like we built like a foundation here. Like I'm not trying to leave here, but at the same time, I'm not going to let this dude like, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, he doesn't want us here, but I'm not going to let him determine, like, my value as a player.
And the thing, like you said, I'm sorry for I know, Joe, you were about to say something. I don't want to lose this point because I just thought of it. It's the perfect, like, the thing I just thought of right now was that Dwayne Wade played his entire career in Miami, right? He was born and raised in Chicago. He literally told Miami, and this is how I knew that, and Abboud, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you follow the Heat and everything like that, but isn't Pat Riley the GM of the Heat now?
Yep.
Okay. So Dwayne Wade literally told him, "Listen, I want to go play for Chicago because that's my home city. I'm going there for 1 year, but I want to come back and retire." Pat Riley literally looked at him and said, "Go do you." He came here, played for 1 year, went back to Miami, played 1 more year, and then retired. Like, and
that's not what happened. He got lowballed. We gave him like some super bullshit ass contract.
Oh, really?
He went to Chicago. He was there for a year with Rondo and Jimmy, and then all the younger players rioted and were like, "Yo, what the fuck? We want younger talent. You brought in older talent." He went to Cleveland with LeBron. That's when they brought in Isaiah Thomas, and then they were like, "Fuck, we're gonna blow this up, bring in Jordan Clarkson, all these other players." And then as a favor, GM LeBron got him sent back to Miami for his retirement run.
GM LeBron.
Way nicer.
GM LeBron, man, I'm telling you, bro, it's worlds apart when you look at what players could do back then to what they could do right now. GM LeBron got David Blatt fired when they were first team in the East going into All-Star Weekend. Like, and you're Michael Jordan, you're Scottie Pippen, and Krause is just fucking strong-arming you. It's just, man, I know it's very repetitive. I can't get over it. It's fucking mind-boggling. The whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, this would never fly today. Are you kidding me?
No.
Because the Players Association now is so, like, they control as much as, like, GMs and the team owners say, oh, we're the ones control. The Players Association controls everything. So, like, Chris Paul, I believe is still the president of the CBA, right? He comes out and says, hey, this doesn't fly. Like, that can't happen to a LeBron James or to a Dwayne Wade where they won't get their contract or they won't get like, nowadays it's so much more grown and, like, they have so much more control. They control their own outcomes, which is, again, back then, like, nowadays we have, I mean, how many Hall of Famers can we name nowadays in the NBA besides LeBron, Dwayne Wade? Like, and not retired. I'm not talking about past retired. I'm just talking about, like, today.
I would argue Carmelo.
Again, I'm saying think of them because back then you had 3 on one team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like they traded for them. It was like obviously Dennis Rodman got signed here, but, like, you built that team. And then you had 3 Hall of Famers on your team, and then you don't let them basically control the team. It's crazy.
And the thing is, I'm thinking about it, like, it would be much scarier to blow a team up and have to start all over back then as opposed to today. If you gave me the Sacramento Kings today as opposed to, like, I don't fucking know, the Warriors in, like, the 80s or the 70s and blew the team up and now you got to reassemble a team, I would much rather assemble talent today. Because talent back then was so divided amongst the league. Like, yes, there were teams that had superstars, but then there were some really shitty teams out there. And you don't want to end up one of those teams where you end up in that top 5 draft spot, but you're not at 1 or 2. You're somewhere in the 4 and 5 range, and you keep getting all these guys that either need to continuously develop or they're just a bust. And it's like every year you're tanking, and maybe hopefully you find a guy that, like, because of limited minutes or the only minutes you have to offer, like, he develops some kind of game. But it's like when you have a sure thing on your team, how do you allow that to get away from you? You don't have to, your process. So that's what raised like this. So one of the final things that I wanted to bring up to you guys, obviously we're only 2 episodes in right now, but if you had to rate Krause's GM career, his time during the Bulls, how would you guys rate his job?
Shit, I don't fucking know. That's so tough, man. Because, like, Amer, you go ahead. If you got something, you go ahead, because I gotta think about it.
No, the only thing I would say is if you were rating it, 1 out of 5 or A through F, I'm assuming.
Like, give it, like, let's say A through F. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so I would say, and this is going back to what we said from the beginning, is that I think assembling the team and making it growing it the way it did, it's an A+++, right?
Absolutely, entirety. I'm talking about
entirety.
Everything you knew from the beginning throughout and how it would end.
Yeah.
How do you rate?
Assuming, like, we're predicting it, right? I'm assuming it would probably. He had, again, it was an A+, and I'm assuming after that, again, we're only seeing that one season. I would drop it down to almost a C, if not lower, even. Just because you let go of 3 Hall of Famers, like, that's crazy. Like, how do you? I don't, man. Again, like you said, it's repetitive, but I don't think even me as a Bulls fan, again, I'm never gonna get over that. And the thing that is stuck with me is that our organization. This is my biggest takeaway from everything. And then Joe, you can go ahead and rate. My biggest takeaway from this entire thing, and we're only 2 episodes in, so we're in for a ride. My biggest takeaway from it is that our organization, the Bulls organization, has not changed. Whether you want, like, besides the Derrick Rose signing, which was a great sign in the beginning, like when you first signed him to that contract, we have never. Well, first off, we're in Chicago, which is like one of the major cities. We can't even get a star to come here in their prime. That's one. And 2, you're giving all these like bullshit ass players, like role players that play maybe 10 minutes a game. You're giving them these great contracts for them playing in their roles. But then you can't even offer like you can't go to LeBron right now and tell him, listen, you're the best player in the NBA. Or like, for example, Giannis is a free agent next year. You can't even go to him and tell him, listen, we're Chicago. We're a bigger market than Milwaukee. We have Zach LaVine. We have Kobe White. We have a very young roster. You can't even attract him. Like, I haven't seen one report of Giannis even thinking of coming here. You can't even attract a star player in their prime to come play here. So our organization hasn't changed one bit, and that's the thing that's killing me.
Man. Yeah, no, I mean, I understand your frustration. Joe, did you figure out a grade yet? Or if not, because I got another question for you while you think about that.
Yeah, I guess I gotta go with like I'll give him a C. Maybe I gotta give him like a high C to be nice. Cause I mean, like, again, you drafted Jordan, you drafted Pippen, you signed Rodman, you had a whole, but like you brought in all these major pieces: Cartwright, Winnington, Kukoc, Longley, Armstrong, Kerr. Just you brought in all these people. I named them multiple times, but like at the end of the day, like you had 3 Hall of Famers on your team, and because you couldn't get out of your own way, you had to blow the team up, and that just again, like I said, like if I'm Krause or if I'm just the GM of the Bulls at that time, like I'm not doing anything. Like I have this team assembled, and I'm just sitting back, like, and I'm chilling. Like I'm scouting people for the draft, maybe a couple free agent stuff, but like the last thing on my mind is blowing this team up after, like, at any point. Like again, like we'll win championships. We'll take the 30th pick in the NBA draft in the first round. We'll draft some kid, and we'll let him sit on the bench and develop and all that other shit. Like, and we're gonna keep doing that. And we'll grab some other pieces. And again, when Jordan and Pippen and Robin come to us, like, yo, like we're ready to like call it quits and everything. Like, all right, cool. You get if you want to, you can all do 1-year contracts. This is your last ride. You guys can all go out together and retire, and then you build the team back up. Like, take proper steps. Like, so for you to have, again, like he was up here, like he was like a freaking an A+. He was perfect. He made this whole amazing team. Like, I've never again, since we've really been alive in NBA, I can't see a team that's really done what they've done in all this time. Like, so you were up there. You were like an A+, and then for you to blow up the team for no reason brings you from a freaking A+ to a fucking like a C. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. Again, we're only 2 episodes in, so maybe we'll find out some more shit. Maybe something that's gonna, more eye-opening shit's gonna happen, and yeah, we'll go from there. But what's your next question?
Last question before I get you guys out of here. And obviously, episode 1 and 2 only. We still have a lot to see to unfold, so we really don't know what's yet to be shown. Given the success over the duration of his career, would you guys hire Krause as your GM and go through that period of time of him under the Bulls being their GM, winning the 6 championships, acquiring the talent they acquired, knowing that it's going to end the way that it ended? Would you guys hire Krause as your GM?
Like now?
Like, would you go through that process, that entire process, if you knew that you were going to assemble probably the greatest trio of talent, probably the greatest era of winning in basketball, at least in the modern history of basketball? With the Chicago Bulls, you were going to have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and of course the entire supporting cast throughout the years through both of their three-peats. Would you, as a team owner, have Jerry Krause as your GM and go through that ride?
Wait, so let me understand everything here. So I'm the owner of the Bulls. I'm gonna win 6 championships in 8 years, but I can't tell him anything different. I have to sit here and let him blow the team up and all that shit.
Yeah, the entire story.
So I can't even like try to prevent it.
Yeah, like I
can't. You can't interfere.
I can't.
I'm just saying.
Man,
you can't interfere. Would you be the team owner, just like the Bulls owner was throughout this entire process? Would you be the team owner, Let Krause do with the team what he did, create the tension that he created, create the success that he created, acquire all of this talent, do all of these things, and you knew how this story was going to end. Would you have Krause as your GM?
Is my team stuck in mediocrity now since we let them all leave?
I mean, whatever happened to the Bulls after, I'm not a Bulls fan. I really can't tell you. I've only been a Nets fan and a Heat fan.
No, they're shit. Okay.
I'm going to say, like, if my team is shit now, or do we bounce back? Do we get to the championship? What happens?
You get Derrick Rose eventually, but then he gets hurt. Sorry, Amer. Sorry. I honestly, I didn't think about it as I was saying it. I really didn't think about it as I was saying it.
Okay, this is an emotional question for me. Joe, go ahead, answer, because I got to think of, like how to say this.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm not a Bulls fan, so if I can be the Bulls owner and I can win 6 championships in 8 years, then I'm gonna take it. I'm not gonna lie. Now, if you want to flip it to an NFL question as a Giants fan, then it's different. But as a Bulls owner, if you're telling me I can get 6 championships in 8 years,
Joe, this is the fucking thing I hate about Joe. If we can just address this for a second, Joe turns the question. And no, don't just make it a Bulls thing. It's your team, Joe, not just the Bulls. It's so the Nets. So Joe, for those who don't know, Joe is a Brooklyn Nets fan. So Joe, however, even though back in New Jersey, if they acquired Michael Jordan, if Krause was your GM, acquired Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, acquired all of this talent, you knew what was going to happen for your team and then what would happen to your team. I know it's hard because late 90s, early 2000s, Nets, pretty competitive, going to the finals every year. So it's kind of hard to bounce back to say that you need to bounce back after that. But would you go through that ride and then go through the period of mediocrity that the Bulls went through after Jordan and Pippen left the team?
Well, all right, 2 things. One, if I'm the owner of the Nets, I wouldn't let that happen. Because if it's my team, I'm not going to let it happen.
No, but
no, I got it. But two, if I'm the owner of the Nets, then yes, I would take that because I don't know the last time the Nets have ever won an NBA championship, or NBA Finals. So yes, I would take that because if you look at it, when's the last time? I mean, I'm not going to say when's the last time we've been good because we've always been like 8th seed. Well, for a while we were complete shit. So I mean, I'd rather win 30 games a year than win 12 games. We were 12-70 one year, so I've gone through the mediocrity. After we lost in the finals multiple times, and we lost Kidd and Carter and RJ and all of them, and we were selling courtside seats in Prudential Center for $4. Like people, they couldn't hand tickets away. They were handing me tickets and I was throwing them back. Like people were like wiping their ass with Nets tickets. So I get it. Like my team sucks since like 2000. So since I've been a fucking kid, I've been 8 years old or whatever. I've been watching the Nets suck for the past 20 years. So I will take that. I will take 6 championships in 8 years, and I will suffer through mediocrity. If mediocrity is 30-52, yes, I will take that over watching my team win 82 games in 5 seasons. So yes, I will take that.
I love how you pointed out making mediocrity to you is 30-52, whereas the Bulls have won 39 games in 2 seasons. Okay, so as a Bulls fan,
mediocrity. Mediocre is not 39 games. Mediocre is a little below average.
I know. See, the point is
not bottom of the barrel.
Look. My point is, for the past 4 years, the Bulls have been always top 10 pick every year, right? So, to answer your question, just so we don't like continue dragging on to it, but yeah, I would still do it. And it sucks to say that. No, hear me out. This is why, because okay, without Jordan and them, like if I was the Bulls owner and let's say I didn't take that deal, right? So you're telling me from the time I took over the team from 79 or 78, whenever he bought the team, from 79 till 2020, you're talking about almost, 52 years?
41 years.
41 years, I'm sorry. You're telling me for 41 years, my team can't even contend to make a playoff spot? No, of course I'm going to take Jordan up. Plus that built our legacy. Plus at that time, like after all that happened, the Bulls were shit for about 10 years, I believe, almost 10 years. And then Ben Gordon came in and Kirk Heinrich and all them. And, yeah, of course, we didn't do anything. But we took the Celtics, who won the Big Three at that time, won the championship for however many years. We took them to Game 7 2 years in a row. So, like, and we were the 8th seed. So, I'm still going to take it because we still had success after that. Now, how far did that success go? Not that far. But, you know, like, in all honesty, the only thing that stopped us from winning in 2010 was LeBron James. If LeBron James wasn't there in Miami, if he was in Cleveland still, obviously the Cavs would have made the playoffs those years. I still think our team would have beat the Cavs and beat Dwayne Wade in the Heat those years, and probably would have beaten the Mavericks the first year, and then would have beaten – who was the following year? The
OKC? No,
OKC.
y'all won't beat it.
Okay,
that Mavericks team knocked out the Lakers. That Mavericks team knocked out an OKC team. That Mavericks team that year, we really blew it. Like, trust me, we really, really blew it. But that Mavericks team was on a mission that year. Like, you really couldn't tell them shit. Dirk wanted it that year.
But I'm saying though, like, for us at that time, we were the number one defense for like 3 years straight. We were the number one seed for 2 years straight. We had 4 All-Stars every year.
That Thunder team, I'll give you it. That Thunder team, y'all probably would have taken it. Russ wasn't Russ yet. KD didn't have enough help.
Harden wasn't that good at
it. James' role was very minimalized. So I'll give you that. You definitely would have taken that.
But even still, the Mavs, like, to this day, I'm looking at it. And, of course, like you said, they were on a mission. They, like, took over all that. Like, they literally blew out everybody. But, like, I feel – obviously, we can't take anything away from Dirk Nowitzki. He's a Hall of Famer. So, like, we do what we can, but I still believe – I'm a Bulls fan. I'm going to say it. They would have beaten the Mavs, so I don't give a shit. Okay?
All right, man.
Stat-wise, probably not, but to me, I'm going to say yes.
Hey, man, it is what it is. All right, fellas. That was it for episode 1 and 2.
Wait.
You got one more thing, Joe? Go ahead.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Mr. Mark.
So I don't know if you guys got that Bleacher Report thing, but I got when they were talking about Sky Pippen getting traded and stuff, they actually
for
said
T-Mac.
Yeah,
you saw that? That was nuts. Like, when I saw that popped up, that was just like interesting to me. Like,
that's crazy because if you kind of look at both of their careers, they were both very injury riddled in their careers. So imagine getting prime T-Mac, like Orlando or end of Toronto Raptors T-Mac on that team. That would have been crazy.
What was that?
We mean even Houston Rockets T-Mac.
97? What was that, 97, 98?
97.
Yeah.
I think it was his second year in the league.
97, 98, you switched Pippen for T-Mac and have Pippen and Jordan. You have T-Mac and Jordan and Rodman running, and then after Jordan then leave as T-Mac's team. Yo, actually, oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive we drafted Ron Artest. Obviously, Ron Artest isn't the player that at that time than he was like later on in his career, but still have that brute that was taking over basically Dennis Rodman's like role, and then to still have T-Mac being in his prime after Jordan them left. Dude, it would have been crazy. I mean, again, I would not have traded. Me thinking of it now, maybe I would have traded it. But at that time, you're not going to trade a future Hall of Famer for a guy that's in his second year in the league. You don't know what his potential is.
18, 19-year-old T-Mac, I mean.
Yeah.
And I think you got Jamal Crawford like a year or two later. Like
Jamal Crawford, yep. Dude, the Bulls draft everybody nice. As soon as they leave our team, they're shit with us. As soon as they leave our team.
Jamal Crawford was nice with y'all, first of all.
My man.
Y'all had a lot of good talent. Jalen Rose was nice with y'all. Jamal Crawford, Ben Gordon. Here's the thing. Honestly,
Jalen Rose doesn't go with anybody.
All right. Well, since Joe brought this back up, I'm gonna have to bury Amer for a second. I'm sorry, Amer, but the Bulls have had the worst luck when it comes to like the acquisition of talent. When it comes to potential trades or free agency, they almost got Kobe, and then the Lakers traded Shaq to Miami. They were gonna get LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh, but then they chose Miami at the last second. It's like.
You know why? Hold on. Do you know why they chose that? And do you know why Carmelo Anthony didn't sign with us? Because our organization has not changed. They can't sign players, star players, legendary players to huge contracts because why? Our owner does not care. And it's like he would rather keep selling these bullshit ass bleacher seats all the way, nosebleeds. He would rather keep selling them at $30, which, by the way, even when we were shit, he was still selling them for $30 instead of lowering it to attract more people, to attract those families that couldn't afford those tickets when they were expensive. So instead of lowering it, he keeps it at the same price. So we couldn't even afford. He didn't want to take the chance. He didn't want to pay LeBron and Dwayne Wade, who are arguably top 5 of all time. Both. So it's like, man, dude, I hate you. Why would you say that? Oh my God. Dude, what do you mean when we traded for Carmelo, when we actually acquired, I know we only had Melo for like 17 hours or whatever it was, but when we traded for him, dude, the first instant I was like, I'm going to get a Melo jersey. I don't care if he's at the end of his career.
Yeah. Joe always got to come in with some kind of controversy.
I hate both of you.
Anything else? You guys got anything else you guys want to cover?
I'm excited for the Rodman episode, honestly.
Oh man, Rodman's nuts. I love that guy though. He's
man,
he's crazy.
You guys see how he dresses up as women, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, do that, right?
Yeah, he wears dresses all the time.
Yeah, he can't. Again, this isn't like quote unquote, but from what I remember was he came out and said, if I can't be my own self and dress as a woman if I wanted to, then why the hell should I be playing in the NBA? Just because I'm gifted and talented? I'm like, dude, that's two totally different things. All right, do you? As long as you bring on the rebounds.
Respect, bro. I respect it. You know what I'm saying? Dude, you know what? Defensive player of the year, motherfucker can wear whatever he wants to. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even give a shit.
He was low-key my favorite player on that team. I'm not going to lie. At that time, I just loved the attitude he played with. He was nuts.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I don't give a fuck. Come to the arena dressed in a goddamn dress for all I care. As long as you snatch 30 boards a game, I don't give a fuck what you dress in. Fuck that.
Man. All right, guys. That's going to be it for episode 1 and 2 coverage of ESPN's The Last Dance documentary. Joe, Amer, thank you guys for joining me, man.
Great to be here.
Definitely stay tuned. We'll cover them as they group them out. I'm assuming they're putting them out 2 at a time every weekend. So when they do, we'll definitely have a review for it.
Actually looked it up tonight. Yeah. So April 26th this Sunday is 3 and 4, and then so on and so forth. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the next Sundays. So yeah.
So it's only
perfect.
5-week thing then.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing 1 and 2 this week and then 3 next week, 4 the following. But I mean, hey, I'm down for
it. That long. I mean, I don't care, but it was that long.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a 10-piece 10-part docu series. It's crazy that they moved it up until June, for everybody's viewing pleasure during this, crazy time. Everybody's home. It definitely gave us something to do. And as you know, here at SportsMark, we're always trying to push you guys something to provide some kind of entertainment during these times. So stay tuned, follow along with us, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And yeah, man, thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate it.